Welcome to Guest Adventures, where everyone is a guest, including me. Today's adventure, the Gerald R. Ford Presidential Museum, Grand Rapids, Michigan. In the lobby is a large presidential seal on the wall, and the stairway going up. There is a movie theater here, but the doors are closed. The movie theater was moved upstairs. It's about a 9-minute film that we watched. This is outside the theater. It's on the second level. It's the lobby again and the seal. This tells you about his original name, Leslie Lynch King, changed to Gerald R. Ford. And as exhibits progress, you learn more about his life. This about his boyhood. A picture of the Ford Paint and Varnish Company. The exhibits continue about his life, attending high school, about him as an athlete. And information of him as an Eagle Scout. And all the badges that he won are earned. Information about the University of Michigan with Gerald Ford and his quote, "The luckiest break I ever had."
Ford was well respected, and when an assistant assistant navigator was needed, the ship's captain gave Ford the job. Leaving the fantail behind, Ford moved to the command bridge. His new general quarters station placed him shoulder to shoulder with the Monterey's commanding officer. Ford was on the front lines as the ship launched strikes against enemy island bases. Fast approaching typhoon that had formed 250 miles southwest of the fleet's position. Aboard the Monterey, Ford early began securing islands in Eagle, flying into decks below as they braced for heavy seas. Ford had been on board from midnight until 7 a.m. By 8 a.m., the ship drove south. The barometer fell rapidly. Sustained winds of 75 knots and monitorized waves showed the carrier into port. 4 planes snapped their cables, careening off the side. At 9:11 a.m., during one of the violent ship rolls, planes in the hangar deck below break loose from their cables, crashing into one another, puncturing gas tanks.
And this is information about Gerald Ford's congressional career. And his actual congressional desk. Gerald Ford was part of the Warren Commission that looked into the Kennedy assassination. There's a book written by Gerald Ford about the Kennedy assassination.
Nixon ordered secret electronic listening devices installed in his offices and on his telephones.
I was aware of listening devices. Yes, sir.
Senate Watergate Committee today filed a civil suit in federal court in an attempt to get President Nixon to give up his Watergate tapes.
President Nixon refused, citing executive privilege. In the midst of the Watergate turmoil, Vice President Agnew resigns from office, facing indictment on charges of bribery while governor of Maryland. On October 12th, President Nixon announces his nomination for vice president.
He is a man with the responsibilities of the great office that I hold should fall upon him, as has been the case with 8 vice presidents in our history. We could all say the leadership of America is in good hands.
That same day, the United States Circuit Court of Appeals rules that President Nixon must release the Oval Office tapes to Judge John Sirica. The White House proposes a compromise which Special Prosecutor Cox declines. Cox is asked by Nixon to resign and refuses.
Good evening. In breathtaking succession tonight, the following historic events occurred. The President of the United States demanded that the Attorney General fire Special Prosecutor Archibald Cox, who was supervising the bringing to justice of all persons involved in the Watergate case and related crimes. The Attorney General, Elliot Richardson, refused and resigned. The President then ordered the Assistant Attorney General, the Deputy to Elliot Richardson, William Ruckelshaus, to fire the Special Prosecutor. Ruckelshaus refused. The President immediately fired Ruckelshaus. Solicitor General Robert Bork quickly was named Acting Attorney General. Bork was ordered to fire Special Prosecutor Cox. He did.
This event has been dubbed the Saturday Night Massacre.
Accidental in erasing some of the tape, but she insisted that she erased only about 5 minutes of it. She said she was surprised at the result of the 18 missing minutes. The House Judiciary Committee, after 6 months of political and legal country to believe that he had not broken his constitutional oath. If the country didn't believe that, the elected representatives in Congress didn't believe that, Richard Nixon was doomed.
The museum is actually set up by years so you can follow his political career. Here's a great quote. Independence has to be defended as well as declared. Freedom is always worth fighting for, and liberty ultimately belongs only to those willing to suffer for it.
President Nixon's Watergate. The open wounds of the Vietnam War. Russia foreign relations. A national energy crisis. And an American trade on the run. Became an avid Eagle Scout.
Gerald Ford, from congressman to vice president, and eventually to president. The only U.S. president who has never been elected. After he served, he ran for re-election, and he lost to Jimmy Carter. In the letter dated August 9th, 1974, where Richard Nixon resigned the presidency. Dear Mr. Secretary, I hereby resign the office of President of the United States. Sincerely, Richard Nixon. And information about Gerald Ford as he accepts President of the United States. There you have a newspaper from Detroit Free Press, where Nixon resigns. Nixon leaving the White House. His wife, Gerald Ford, and his wife walking with him. When Nixon announced his resignation, and when Gerald Ford was sworn in. In the 2 pages which show you the daily diary of President Gerald Ford on his first day in office. And then about a month into his presidency, he signed the document granting a pardon to Richard Nixon. And he signed it with that pen to the right. Pen that bears his signature on the side of the pen. And on the wall, with all these documents, is a replica of his signature. It's the actual weapon that Squeaky Fromm used to attempt to assassinate the president. The first assassination attempt was Squeaky Fromm. picture of her being grabbed by the Secret Service agents. In the second attempt. This is one of my favorite parts of the exhibit. The Oval Office, as it looked when he was president. With his rack of pipes, his football pen set. And on the ceiling is another presidential seal. And here's a replica of the White House. And on this side, that's the walkway that you always see the presidents walking to the Oval Office, which is right there. That's the smokestack from the chimney. And the White House from the front. Inside the museum is a helicopter that was used to evacuate people in Vietnam in the fall of Saigon. Just beginning of the end of the U.S. involvement in the Vietnam War. Here's a picture of the helicopter on the roof. Can't really see that picture as well, but there's a picture of it with a soldier protecting people. It's a very interesting museum with many displays of what happened during what was really a short presidency.
But with Prime Minister Rabin and President Sadat, I think this is a great...
There's a place setting of what the tables look like during state dinners. And a replica of the tuxedo worn by Gerald Ford. And a formal dress that First Lady Betty Ford wore. Some of the gifts given to President Ford by various foreign leaders. Information about the American Freedom Train. I mean, who doesn't love a train, right? I did get a chance to see that when it was in Detroit.
his position. One that historians now say cost him his office and he parted with it. I was one of those who spoke out against his actions then. But time is a way of clarifying past events. And now we see that President Ford was right. His courage and dedication to our country made it possible for us.
As his Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, we welcome you. Please take a seat around the table and enjoy the ambience of this room, which is a replica of President Ford's cabinet room in the White House. Here, key administration or cabinet members would meet routinely and as needed to address urgent matters. When a cabinet meeting is convened, the president occupies the taller chair at the center. The vice president sits opposite the president. Each cabinet member is assigned a chair who, in protocol ranking, is first among the department heads. It is located in the west wing of the White House, overlooking the Rose Garden and adjoining the Oval Office. Presidents may select portraits of individuals to hang in the cabinet room that reflect their inspiration and governing style. Of course, the most important selections the president makes are the cabinet members themselves, as they are the most senior appointed officials in the executive branch of the federal government of the United States. Think of the important George W. Bush administration. President Ford also faced a number of severe challenges, which included grave distrust across America caused by the Watergate scandal, the collapse of the Vietnam War.
Information on the new USS Gerald R. Ford. In a replica. On the wall, pictures of all of Ford's cabinets and his advisors. Gerald Ford lying in state. The White House. Actually, I stand corrected. He's lying in state in the Lincoln. Not even sure how to pronounce it. The U.S. Capitol Rotunda. You pronounce that word. Portrait of Gerald Ford. And a portrait of Betty Ford. I thought this was interesting. The actual tape recorder that Richard Nixon used in his office with Secret Service evidence ticket on it. Outside the museum are the grave sites of the President of the United States and his wife. And some commemorative plaques along the way. Happy 45th anniversary, Mom and Dad. With love, your children and grandchildren. October 15th, 1993. Beautiful little area. It's a Japanese maple tree. It says this Japanese maple tree is a gift to the people of Japan in tribute to President Gerald R. Ford and the enduring friendships that resulted from his historic 1974 state visit as the first U.S. president to visit Japan. Lives committed to God, country, and love. Gerald R. Ford, 1913 to 2006. Elizabeth Bloomer Ford, known as Betty, 1918 to 2011. It's a beautiful resting place for a very unique president, one who was never actually elected. Became Richard Nixon's vice president when his vice president Spiro Agnew resigned, and then became president when Richard Nixon had to resign. I hope you enjoyed this visit of the Gerald R. Ford Museum at Grand Rapids, Michigan. Thank you for coming along on a guest adventure where everyone is a guest, including me. I'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe to the channel and help me out. Thank you again. I'll see you on the next video.